let's start our today's topic. Last time we discussed about the types of immunity based on the mechanism of development of that immune response. Now today we are going to discuss about another topic, that is the vaccines. So first of all, we will discuss what is a vaccine. So a vaccine is any antigenic material. Is any antigenic material. Vaccine is any antigenic material capable of developing active artificial immunity in the recipient. So vaccine is any antigenic material. You know what is an antigen? So antigen is a substance which stimulates our immune system to generate an immune response against it. Antigen is a substance which stimulates the immune system to generate an immune response against it. So any antigenic material capable of developing active artificial immunity. In the last lecture, we discussed about the types of immunity. I told you that immunity is of two types, active immunity and passive immunity. Active immunity is provided by the activity of our own immune system. In passive immunity, our own immune system doesn't work. We receive ready-made antibodies from some external source. Then we discussed that active immunity is of two types. Naturally acquired active immunity and artificially acquired active immunity. So this is artificially acquired active immunity. So vaccine is any antigenic material capable of developing active artificial immunity. That means in natural immunity, there is natural contact with the pathogen. But in this artificial immunity, we deliberately inoculate a person with antigenic material to develop immunity. So vaccine is a substance. It is an antigenic material which develops active artificial immunity in the recipient. So that antigenic material is known as a vaccine, right? Then what is the process of vaccination? Vaccination or immunization, they are the synonyms. So the process of inoculation of antigenic material into the body of a person to develop active artificial immunity, that is known as vaccination or immunization. The process of inoculation of antigenic material in the body of an organism to develop active artificial immunity. This process is known as vaccination. So in the process of vaccination, we deliberately inoculate an antigenic material into the body of a person so that this antigenic material is detected by our immune system and immune system reacts against it to produce active artificial immunity. So that process is known as vaccination. So we have two terms, vaccine and vaccination or immunization. So vaccine is any antigenic material. The antigenic material may be cell surface antigen. It may be some toxoids, or it may be some cytoplasmic protein of the pathogen, right? So any antigenic material capable of developing active artificial immunity in the recipient is known as a vaccine, right? What is vaccination or immunization? The process by which this antigenic material is inoculated into the body of the recipient to produce active artificial immunity. That process is known as vaccination, right? So these are the two terms, vaccine and vaccination. So who developed this process of vaccination? Who developed the vaccines for the first time? It was Dr. Edward Jenner in 1796 who developed the process of vaccination for the first time. Vaccines were for the first time developed by Dr. Edward Jenner in 1796. Where from the word vaccine comes from? This vaccine, it has been, the name vaccine, it has been derived from a Latin word. Latin word vacca. Vacca means a cow. Since the first vaccine was developed against cowpox, was developed against smallpox. And the basis of vaccination was developed on observation of the cowpox. You might have heard when smallpox was in the form of an epidemic, at that time, Dr. Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids, they didn't suffer from smallpox. So he got curious. He tried to understand why milkmaids do not suffer from smallpox. As he investigated, he found that the teats of cows, they have some blisters like smallpox blisters on them. So on the udder of cows, there were small pox-like blisters, and it was later on identified that this was cowpox. So these milkmaids, they were exposed to cowpox. This cowpox did not cause disease in humans, but this cowpox virus, it was similar to somewhat smallpox virus. So when this cowpox virus entered into the body of milkmaids, they started forming antibodies against the cowpox, and those antibodies protected them from the smallpox, right? So what Dr. Edward Jenner then did, he inoculated cowpox virus. Dr. Edward Jenner inoculated cowpox virus deliberately in an 8-year-old boy. The name of that boy was James Phipps. He was the son of gardener of this Dr. Edward Jenner. So Dr. Edward Jenner deliberately inoculated James Phipps with cowpox virus. Then after some time, after a few weeks, Dr. Jenner again inoculated James Phipps with smallpox virus. Smallpox virus. Actually, he inoculated him with a fluid from the pustules of cowpox. After inoculating him with the fluid contained in the pustules of cowpox, he inoculated James Phipps with a fluid contained in the pustules of smallpox. So indirectly, he was inoculating virus into the body of James Phipps. So James Phipps was first inoculated with cowpox virus. Then after some time, he was inoculated with smallpox virus, and it was found that James Phipps did not get smallpox. It was found that James Phipps did not get smallpox. So he didn't suffer from the disease. So this formed the basis of vaccination, right? So this deliberate inoculation of antigenic material into the body of a person to stimulate his immune system to produce active artificial immunity. This process is known as vaccination. So its basis was laid by the experiments of Dr. Edward Jenner in 1796. In this era, smallpox was a dreadful disease. It was killing people, it was making the people blind. So in this era, Dr. Edward Jenner noticed that the milkmaids, they never suffered from smallpox. He got curious why milkmaids do not suffer from smallpox when majority of the population was suffering from the smallpox. So he observed that on the teats of cows, there were blisters which resembled in shape with the smallpox blisters. So he concluded that these milkmaids, while milking the cows, they contacted the cowpox virus. When this cowpox virus entered into their body, it didn't cause disease in milkmaids, but it stimulated their immune system to produce antibodies against the cowpox virus. And when these milkmaids were exposed to smallpox virus, their ready-made antibodies against cowpox, they worked against the smallpox virus because these two viruses, they are similar in their most of characteristic features. So antibodies which were produced against cowpox, they worked against the smallpox virus, and all the milkmaids were saved from contacting this smallpox disease, right? So then Dr. Edward Jenner verified this experimentally. He took a 8-year-old boy, James Phipps. He deliberately inoculated him with cowpox virus in the form of fluid of the pustule of cowpox. He took some fluid from the pustule of cowpox and he deliberately inoculated it into the body of James Phipps. Then after a few weeks, when he found that James Phipps was all right, he deliberately now inoculated him with the fluid contained in the smallpox pustule. He took some fluid from the smallpox pustule and he inoculated that fluid into the body of James Phipps. And this James Phipps did not develop smallpox. So in this way, this James Phipps he got immune against the smallpox. So this deliberate inoculation of antigenic material into the body of a person to stimulate his immune system to form antibodies against it, against the antigen. This deliberate inoculation is known as the vaccination. So the basis of vaccination was laid by Dr. Jenner's experiment, right? Now, this antigen, it is inoculated into the body of person in 3 different forms. The antigen may be inoculated. Antigen may be inoculated into the body of a person in 3 different forms. The antigen may be in the form of, it may be in the form of live attenuated bacteria or virus. Or a virus. The antigen may be in the form of live attenuated bacteria or virus. What is attenuated? Attenuated means weakened. The bacterium or virus by certain treatments is weakened. The bacterium or virus is made very weak so that it cannot cause the disease. But it is not killed, it is in the live form. So this toxicity of the bacterium or the virus, pathogenicity of the bacterium or virus, that is neutralized by some treatments. But the bacterium or virus, it is not killed completely, it is just weakened. Or sometimes the antigen may be in the form of killed bacteria or virus. The virus or bacterium, it is killed. After killing, settle the bacterium or virus, it serves as an antigen because the antigens, they are mostly present on the surface, cell surface of these bacteria and viruses. So when the bacterium is killed, it cannot replicate, but the antigens which were present on its cell surface, they are recognized by the immune system and antibodies or defensive cells are formed against them. Or sometimes the antigen may be in the form of a toxoid. Antigen may be in the form of a toxoid. What is a toxoid? Toxoid is a substance, is a toxin. Toxoid is a toxin whose toxicity has been neutralized by certain treatments. Toxoid is a toxin whose toxicity has been neutralized, but still serves as an antigen. So toxoid is a detoxified form of toxin. So toxoid is a toxin whose toxicity has been neutralized. How the toxicity is neutralized? It is neutralized by certain treatments. The toxic property of the toxin that is neutralized, but still this toxin serves as an antigen. So this detoxified toxin, which still serves as an antigen, that is known as toxoid. You may have heard about tetanus toxoid, diphtherium toxoid, right? So tetanus toxoid is the toxin of tetanus bacterium, which is no more toxic. But when administered into the body, it stimulates the immune system to form antibodies and defensive cells against the tetanus bacterium, right? So a vaccine may be in any one of these forms. A vaccine may be either in the form of live attenuated bacteria or virus. So when we go for vaccination, the doctors, the health workers, they may inoculate live bacterium or virus into our body. But this live bacterium or virus, it is first weakened by certain treatments so that it is not capable of replication, very quick replication. If the bacterium or virus replicates very quickly, very fast in our body, then our immune system may not be able to control it. So these scientists, they first make the bacterium or virus very weak so that it is properly handled by the immune system. So its replication is properly controlled by the immune system. So such a bacterium or virus, it is known as attenuated. Attenuated means weakened. Or the antigen may be in killed form. The bacteria may be killed first, or the virus may be first killed. Then after killing, it may be introduced into the body, right? Or the antigen may be in the form of toxoid. So the toxin of the pathogen, that is first subjected to certain treatments. By those treatments, the toxicity of the toxin, that is neutralized. But still this toxin retains antigenic property. So toxoid is a toxin whose toxicity has been neutralized, but still serves as an antigen. So it may be introduced into the body to stimulate the immune system for developing active artificial immunity, right? So antigen may be in any one of these forms, right? Now, in the earliest times, whole organism vaccines were used. Whatever whole organism vaccines, the earliest process of vaccination, or we call them as first generation vaccines. First generation vaccines, they utilized the inoculation of the whole organism. A bacterium or a virus was introduced into the body as a whole. So first generation vaccines, we may write it as 1G. First generation vaccines, they were also known as whole organism vaccines. Whole organism vaccines. They were used. Why whole organism vaccines? Because the pathogen was introduced into the body in attenuated form, the whole pathogen. The bacterium or virus was first weakened and then introduced into the body, or the pathogen was used in killed form, kill bacteria or virus. So whole bacterium or whole virus, either in weakened form or in killed form, was introduced into the body. That is why we call it as whole organism vaccine. So first generation vaccines, they were known as whole organism vaccines. Why? Because the whole bacterium, either in weakened form, whole virus, virus as a whole or a bacterium as a whole, either they were weakened by some treatments or they were killed, then as a whole, the bacterial cell and the virus was introduced into the body as a whole. That's why we call them as whole organism vaccines. These whole organism vaccines, they provided three types of immunity. They generated, these whole organism vaccines were capable of generation. They generated killer T cell response. They generated helper T cell response. And they also generated antibody response. So they stimulated the immune system fully. Whole organism vaccines stimulated the immune system fully. They generated killer T cell response. They generated helper T cell response. They generated antibody response. But what was the problem with these whole organism vaccines? These whole organism vaccines, they caused disease. They caused disease. Sometimes in immunocompromised persons. Some persons who had a weak immune system. Some persons who had weak immune system, when they were given the whole organism vaccine, instead of protecting them from the disease, it actually caused disease in them because their immune system could not tackle these attenuated pathogens, right? Their immune system was not able to deal with these weakened pathogens because he had compromised immune system. His immunity was not working. Even weak pathogen, it causes the disease in immunocompromised patients, right? So for that reason, these whole organism vaccines, they were avoided because in certain persons, instead of providing immunity, they caused the disease actually. Those persons who had weak immune system, when they were given whole organism vaccines, they caused the disease instead of providing immunity. So for that reason, they were avoided in most of the cases. Then after first generation vaccines, second generation vaccines were formed. These whole organism vaccines, they were replaced by second generation vaccines. The famous example of this whole organism vaccine is, you might have heard about live oral polio vaccine. Live oral polio vaccine. So polio is a disease which is caused by poliomyelitis virus, right? Poliomyelitis virus, right? Or simply you can call it polio virus. So in case of polio, when the polio was very common in the population, doctors, they administered attenuated polio virus in the small children, in infants. So that vaccine, which was given to infants, was known as live oral polio vaccine. So live attenuated polio viruses were given to the infants through mouth, right? Similarly, there was another famous vaccine that is known as Salk vaccine. Salk vaccine. It was also used against polio. Salk vaccine was also used against polio. In Salk vaccine, killed polio viruses were given to the infants through mouth, right? So whole organism vaccine may utilize an attenuated pathogen as a whole or a killed pathogen as a whole. The example of attenuated pathogen use is live oral polio vaccine, and example of killed pathogen use is killed Salk vaccine, right? So these vaccines were used against polio disease, either in attenuated form or killed form. They had the problem. Those persons who had compromised immunity, they developed disease instead of providing immunity. Then these first generation vaccines, they were replaced by second generation vaccines. What are second generation vaccines? Second generation vaccines. 2G vaccines, or we call them as subunit vaccines. Subunit vaccines, protein subunit vaccines, protein subunit vaccines, protein subunit vaccines. So in this second generation vaccination, scientists they made use of only a defined protein antigen. They didn't use the whole pathogen. They only made use of defined protein antigen of the pathogen. By now, the scientists they had identified what causes the immune system to get activated. They had identified cell surface antigens on the pathogens. So these scientists they looked for the gene which coded for the cell surface antigen. Suppose this is the bacterium. On this bacterium, there are cell surface antigens. There are glycoproteins, there are glycolipids, which are recognized by our immune system. So we call these glycoproteins or glycolipids as cell surface antigen. Cell surface antigen. By now, these scientists they had identified genes for these cell surface antigens. They took out the genes from the pathogens which coded for their cell surface antigens. Then they put these genes into the bacterial plasmids. Bacterial plasmids. Then these plasmids were introduced in certain bacteria. So they made use of recombinant DNA technology. They introduced these plasmids in some bacteria, which expressed the gene for cell surface antigen, and they produced these cell surface antigens in large numbers. So these scientists now they have made use of recombinant DNA technology. So by the help of recombinant DNA technology, scientists had produced cell surface antigens or pathogens in large quantities. Now, instead of introducing the whole pathogen into the body of the person, they only introduced their cell surface antigens into the body of the person. These cell surface antigens were recognized by our immune system as foreign, and our immune system responded against them, and our immune system started producing antibodies and some defensive cells against them, right? So this cell surface antigen, it is known as a protein subunit vaccine. It is known as a protein subunit vaccine. Or it involved the use of toxoids. Scientists they had discovered if the bacterium is releasing a toxin, this toxin must be coded by some gene. They identified the gene which was present in the pathogen for formation of toxin. They took out the gene, they introduced it in the bacterial plasmid. Then this plasmid, along with the gene for toxin, was introduced to some other bacterium, which expressed the gene and produced these toxins in very large quantity. Then these toxins, they were detoxified by some treatment, and toxins were converted into toxoids. Now, in second generation vaccination, the whole organism is not introduced. The whole virus or the whole bacterium is not introduced into the body of the recipient. Only the cell surface antigen or the toxoid of the pathogen. The cell surface antigen or the toxoid of the pathogen is used. It is introduced into the body of the person. And immune system recognizes the cell surface antigen or the toxoid and produces antibodies against it, so providing immunity. But these second generation vaccines, they had a problem. Scientists experienced some drawbacks in them. What drawbacks these second generation vaccines had? They had the drawback that they only produce T helper cell response and antibody response. They could not produce. They produce a T helper cell response and antibody response. But there was no killer T response, no TK response. So it didn't provide immunity in its fullest sense, right? So complete immunity was not developed by using protein subunit vaccine. Helper T cells against the pathogen or the toxoid, they were produced. Antibodies were produced, but killer T cells were not produced. So full immunity was not developed. So this became a serious concern for these immunologists, right? First generation vaccines had the problem that they sometimes caused the disease. Second generation vaccines, they developed the problem that full immunity was not given. Then they started looking for another vaccine that is known as the third generation vaccine, or we call them as DNA vaccines. We will discuss them tomorrow, inshallah. This time we are running out of time. So this is session for today. Thank you for being with me.